Hey everyone, and welcome to the Mae Cave. My name is Maegan, and today I'm bringing you a book review of Robert Michals' A Demon in the Trees by Ben Sanders. For those of you that don't know, Ben Sanders is local to BookTube and AuthorTube, so I'll link his channel down below if you want to check him out. He has great, funny videos. But this is his first novel. He's actually working on a second one, so this is the first in a series that he's going to write. It's a mystery series that's has a little bit of a mythical creature background to it, which is really cool. I thoroughly enjoyed this novel. At first it started just a little slow, but then it really picked up, and at the very end it was so suspenseful. At the very end I was like holding my breath at this one scene on an island, for those of you that have read it, and I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I let it go. So it's really good. I definitely overall give it 4 out of 5 stars, but I'm going to go through my pros and cons of the book. So on my cons list, we'll start with the bad stuff first, and these cons aren't major cons. They're not like, oh man, these are so awful. They're just kind of like, hey, I noticed these things. So first, the grammar and the spelling and the editing of the book, it's noticeable enough that I noticed it throughout the entire book and not just on a few pages here and there. There were instances where a word was misspelled, so instead of here, it was spelled her, or off was of. There were a few times when some paragraphs ended with the quotation marks, even though the last sentence of that paragraph was not a dialogue, so that confused me a little bit. And overall, I mean, it wasn't bad. It didn't really take away from the story too much, but I noticed those kinds of things, so it just made me feel like the book should have gone through one more round of editing before being published. That's all. It's not a really major thing. It's just kind of something that should be noticed for the next book is all. And then secondly, the spacing in the paragraphs is a little off. It's the same amount of space between each paragraph, the same kind of space you would have between scenes breaks. So the scene would keep going, but the paragraph spacing would be the same. And it would be the same for scene breaks and non-scene break paragraphs. So when a scene would change, I would kind of get confused at first, and I'd be like, okay, wait a minute. Okay, that's a new scene. Let me go back and read it like it's a new scene and not a continuation of the previous paragraph. So that got a little bit confusing. I mean, it's not awful, so you can see the spacing, but it just, I don't know if that's because of who we went through for publishing or what, but that was a little off-putting, but it's not so bad that I'm really like, oh, I'm never going to read his books again. It's minor, it's just something I wanted to mention, but honestly, I am definitely going to pick up the second book as soon as it comes out. Whenever, I don't know when that's going to be because he's currently writing it, but I'm definitely going to pick it up. And then the next con is a specific scene that I was kind of bugged with. This one did kind of bug me. There was a scene in which Inspector Michals, the main character, was talking to 2 other people and telling them a tragic event that happened to someone that they knew. And you would think that because of this tragic event, they would have some kind of shock or sadness or something. They would have some kind of reaction that was like, oh my gosh, that happened, or, you know, something like that. But, so he's talking to these 2 people. Immediately after saying what he said, one of them goes on about what they were talking about that's in relation to that tragic event. And then the second person that Inspector Michals was talking to didn't even have a reaction at all until later. She inserted herself into the conversation, but neither of them had an actual reaction to what happened to this person that they knew. And I was like, wait a minute, why aren't they exclaiming or I mean, it was supposed to be a somewhat private conversation, so they shouldn't have been loud, but I'm like, wait a minute, why is there no reaction at all? That scene kind of bugged me. I feel like there should have been something. They should have been at least like, oh my gosh, why did that happen? Who, what, when, where, whatever. But that scene bugged me, and it still sticks in my head. That is on page 132 for those of you that have read it. So if you go to that page, you can probably know what I'm talking about. Alright, and then my fourth con is that I feel like there could have been a little more explanation into, let's see, how do I say this without giving spoilers? So the bad guy in the book, he does something, and someone else gives an explanation as to how he does it, but I feel like there should have been more, it could have been a deeper explanation instead of just saying, well, it's this, that, and that thing. I feel like there should have been more to how he did it instead of, like, I don't know, I feel like there could have been more. I mean, maybe there's a better explanation as to why, and that's just what they told Inspector Michals at the time, and, you know, maybe I guess it could be, I guess that could, now that I'm thinking about it, actually, that could support this thing that the bad guy did from previous years of other people. Okay. Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. Maybe that does work. Anyway, I think I'm overthinking things, so we'll just forget that con. Although I think that's in my Goodreads review, so I'll have to nix that one. Anyway, I don't want to give spoilers, so I can just tell you why I think it's an okay explanation now. But we'll just move on to my next con. So my next and final con is that I wish the ending was a little longer. So after they solve things, there's only a few pages, and something is brought up to the inspector that I feel like the way it was written was so close to the ending of the case that he just did that it seemed so sudden. I was like, oh, why is that? It's kind of odd. I feel like it either could have waited until another book, or he could have put a little more writing into the final pages and added a little more time to it, because it just felt very sudden compared to what I had just read. But, I mean, it's not awful. It's not like a really bad ending. I just felt like there could have been a little more to it. But that's it for my cons. I don't really have a lot of cons. They're not very major cons. They're just little things here and there that kind of bug me a little bit. That's all. And just because they're minor cons, that's why it's 4 stars instead of a 5-star book. But otherwise, it's a really good book. But now let's go into my pros. So one of the things I did like is that each character really did have their own individual personality. They weren't just side characters to the story. They were actually there. They had their little quirks and things like that. And I really enjoyed that. I liked seeing how he wrote out their characters and their personalities to match each character. And it was really good. There was a few times in which I got lost as to which character was which. But I think now I kind of know who's who. But otherwise, I think it was really good, and I really enjoyed the characters. I like that Robert Michals had some flaws. He had a temper that he was dealing with, but it didn't just come out and say, oh, I have a temper. It was actually, you know, he'd come into a moment and he was saying, oh no, to himself, he was saying, I need to calm down, I need to do, you know, whatever. So it wasn't that it was just thrown out into the storyline, it was actually with the story, and it was pretty good. So I like the characters. I can't wait to see more development for the characters later in the books. My next pro, I guess, could be 2 pros in one, but there were 2 really sweet moments in the book that had to do with very minor characters that I really enjoyed. First is that a neighborhood kid, Robert Michals lives in an apartment complex, and one of the neighbor kids wrote him a letter thanking him for something, and I thought that was really sweet. I really enjoy little tidbits like that, and I thought, oh, I love that part. That was such a cute kid. And then another scene in which this drunk dad kind of runs into him and says, hey, will you help me recover and, you know, maybe point me in a direction or something, and Robert Michals gives him a card of someone he can talk to. And I really enjoyed that as well. I like that the dad is trying to figure his shit out instead of just saying, hey, I'm a drunk, whatever. And I hope to see these minor characters in later books, because I like the little sweet things like that. I think those things really capture the essence of a novel sometimes, and of course the author, because they put in the sweet things. So I really love those 2 scenes. What pages were they on? The letter from the kid was on page 138, I want to say, and then the scene of the dad asking for help was like page 96 to 98. So for those of you who have read it or are currently into it, you can know what exactly scene I'm talking about. And then for my final pro is that the plot was really good. I enjoyed the prologue itself was awesome. I love prologues that kind of hook you into an action scene and then it goes into the rest of the story. And then just the overall plot, how they were trying to figure out how this incident occurred, and just the movement through the plot and the ending and what exactly was happening and who the bad guy was and what he was doing. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really good, and I love it, honestly. I really do. I'm so glad that I picked this up, especially because when I first read it, or the back of it, I don't always pick up mysteries, so this one was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but I'll give it a try, because I really like Ben Sanders and his channel. I mean, I've never personally met him, but he seems really cool from what I've seen in his videos, so I figured, you know what, I'm gonna give his book a try, and I am so glad that I did. I think the cover is really awesome, the plot is really good, the characters are great, and overall, it's just a really good book. Like I said, I give this 4 out of 5 stars, and if you like mysteries in any way, shape, or form, I recommend picking this book up. So, yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop rambling now. I feel like this was kind of a rambly video, but I feel like I also kind of put it together a little bit. Sometimes, because sometimes I just ramble on and on, which I'm doing now. So, I'm gonna stop talking now. I'm gonna show you the back of the book real fast so you can see it, because I like the tree over here, and I like the front. I think it's just such a good book, and I can't wait for the second one to come out. So, that's it. I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please go check out Ben Sanders. He has a great channel. He is so funny. At the beginning of every single one of his videos, he has a pun, which is probably one of my favorite parts of his videos, because I love puns. I usually laugh out loud at every single one of his videos because of that. And one more thing before I go, Ben Sanders actually just recently made a book tag to go with his book that I am now going to do, but I'm going to do it in a separate video. So there's 2 videos that will go together, this review and then that book tag. So after this, you should watch the book tag, because I'm going to go film it right now. Anyway, I'm done now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!